Could all matchday staff please stand by? The stadium is now opening. Thank you.
Tottenham plays such a huge role in my life. On a good day, I'm thinking about Spurs, and on the bad days, I'm thinking about Spurs, and you can bet that the days in between, I'm thinking about Spurs. I've shared some of the best memories of my life with friends and family through Tottenham, and if I'm honest, I don't know what I'd do without Tottenham. In 1882, members of the Hotspur Cricket Club searched for sporting relief during the winter months and got together to form Hotspur FC, a football team to play in during the cricket off-season. 2 years later, in 1884, Hotspur FC became Tottenham Hotspur as we know it today, then becoming an official professional club in 1886. In 1889, Tottenham Hotspur moved to White Hart Lane, where they would play all of their home games for the next 118 years. Tottenham claimed their first major domestic trophy in 1901 when they won the FA Cup, becoming the first ever non-league club to win the trophy, a record that still stands to this day. Following the conclusion of the two world wars, Tottenham appointed former player Arthur Rowe as manager, with their sights set on glory. Arthur Rowe's famous push and run style of football saw Spurs promoted to the First Division in 1950, before going on to win the First Division the following season in 1951, becoming just the third team to win back-to-back league titles at the time. Fast forward 10 years later to 1961, and Spurs went one better, bringing home the FA Cup alongside the league title, becoming the first team in the history of English football to do so at the time. The club would go on to win a further 2 FA Cups and a European Cup Winners' Cup throughout the 60s, becoming the first British team to win a European trophy. The 70s started well for Spurs, winning 2 League Cups in 1971 and 1973, as well as the first UEFA Cup in 1971, a team that included stars such as Martin Chivers, Steve Perryman and Pat Jennings. However, the club were relegated in 1977 back to the second division, now under the management of Keith Birkinshaw. The Tottenham board kept faith with manager Keith Birkinshaw, who won promotion the following season with a team of rising stars, with the pick of the bunch, a local lad, Glenn Hoddle. Birkinshaw would go on to win 2 FA Cups in 1981 and 1982 before winning the club's second UEFA Cup in 1984. In the modern era, Tottenham have gone on to win 2 more League Cups, an FA Cup and most recently a 3rd European Cup after the 2025 Europa League triumph. But this is a club like no other, and being on the roller coaster that is being Spurs is something that goes far, far beyond the action on the pitch.
I'm Spursy, I'm a pessimist because I support Spurs. Like, it just seeps into your soul.
And Tottenham, tepid Tottenham, are out.
So much hope, so much expectation.
Tottenham Hotspur are heading to the Champions League final.
The game's over after about 90 seconds.
The club just seemed to have no direction. It was financially not really competitive.
Watching us concede 5 goals in the opening 20 minutes was, the only way I can describe it was surreal.
20 minutes played, Newcastle 5, Tottenham 0.
I don't think I've ever felt lower as a fan.
Best I've ever seen Tottenham play. It's the best day of my life.
And it is 3-0. Christian Ziege for Spurs.
And obviously, second half comes along and we lose 5-3.
David Beckham, and that is good night, Tottenham Hotspur.
My name's Pete Marshall and I've been supporting Tottenham for 51, 52 years now.
Johnny Blaine, supporting Spurs 36, 37 years now.
My name's Alex. I've been supporting Spurs, I'd say actively for nearly 30 years.
My name is Davina and I am a lifelong Spurs fan.
My name is Billy. I've been a Tottenham supporter all my life, so I'm in my mid-30s now. I'm 36 years old. I was born a Tottenham fan, like my whole family.
My earliest Tottenham memory was during naval training. I was based at Chatham in Kent, and one of our instructors, who on reflection was probably a bit sus, managed to get us, a friend of mine, me and Clarny, 2 tickets for Tottenham versus Liverpool I think it was 1983, against a great Liverpool side that included Hanson, Souness, Dalglish, etc. 3 o'clock kick-off out White Hart Lane. And as I say, I think the tickets were about £6 each.
My first game, Glenn Hoddle's last goal for Spurs, famous goal winning round from the halfway line at home to Oxford in 87. That's my first real memory.
I think the earliest one I can remember would be my first game, which I can remember really vividly now. It was it was a League Cup game against Crewe Alexandra at White Hart Lane, and I remember it being a midweek game and going with my mate and his dad and going up after school and going to the shop after. I just remember all of it. I even remember coming home and talking to my parents about it. So yeah, I'd say that was the earliest memory. Was literally my first game.
The thing that I remember the most is when Glenn Hoddle was our manager in the 90s, because I remember my dad bought me a Spurs shirt with Hoddle on the back. Obviously he wasn't a player. I was like, what's going on here? We don't have a player called Hoddle. And then my dad was like, no, this is our manager, but this guy is like a proper Tottenham legend. And he sort of like explained it to me at the time that this guy is not just a manager, like he's an absolute Tottenham legend. So when I was like in primary school, I remember having this Tottenham shirt with Hoddle on the back, as like 10 Hoddle on the back, even though he was our manager, not our player. But and that was kind of my first era. Like my favourite players, like my first favourite players were people like I can just a little bit remember people like Ginola and people like that. But it was really like when I first properly got into it, was like I think like when I grew up a little bit more in secondary school, and like Martin Yule era was my time, like where I properly got into it. It was like that's when it became my life, rather than just something that I watched on TV, like people like Aaron Lennon and Jermaine Defoe and stuff like that. That was my proper era.
My earliest Spurs memory definitely has to be the Carling Cup final. I was 8 years old and it was my first real taste of football emotion. My dad, who is also a diehard Spurs fan, the whole reason why I support Tottenham, made the day even more special. We actually live so close to Wembley, and he took me down to Wembley on the day of the final to pick up the matchday programme. I also have a Spurs beanie that says Carling Cup Final 2008. It's one of my most prized possessions. And that simple moment, standing outside Wembley, kitted out, I was like full kit, all Tottenham, and I was just buzzing with excitement. And it was what first connected me to the magic of Spurs. It's what I can remember as my first footballing memory. And after the game, my first taste of football glory as well.
Tottenham Hotspur have won their first major trophy for 9 years.
Just trying to think back. I mean, there are so many that it's hard to pinpoint one.
Yeah, there's a lot, man. There is a lot. I think I have a younger brother who is he's 5 years younger than me. And I remember my dad, because I used to live in the Cotswolds. I live in London now, but I used to live in the Cotswolds. And it used to be like a 2.5-hour drive to Tottenham. So it was always a big thing. We used to go, didn't have a season ticket back then, but we used to go a few games a season. I remember my brother's first ever game was when we were 3-0 up against Man United at half time. And this is when Man United had like Beckham and people like that. And thinking like, this is the best I've ever seen Tottenham play. It's the best day of my life. And then obviously second half comes along and we lose 5-3, and I just remember my brother being absolutely gutted. Like when we used to lose back then, I used to have like a 3-hour drive home with my dad and like sitting in the back. So that was a particular trenches moment.
My worst Tottenham memory has to be a lived matchday experience, and that was at St James's Park in 2023 when we lost 6-1 to Newcastle. I went to the away game, and watching us concede 5 goals in the opening 20 minutes was, the only way I can describe it was surreal. I don't think I've ever felt lower as a fan. It's either that or the 2019 Champions League final, which was completely heart-wrenching.
The Champions League final, where we got all the way through to the final, so much hope, so much expectation. One, we didn't turn up, and 2, the game was over after about 90 seconds with that ridiculous handball decision.
The referee's given a penalty for a handball by Sissoko. A penalty given to Liverpool inside 30 seconds.
When we lost the FA Cup final to Coventry in 1987, nobody still really knows how we lost it.
I went to Liverpool away, and it was the game where Shearwood was our manager, and he didn't even come out in the dugout. He sat in the stands. He sat in the crowd for some reason. I think we lost 4 or 5-0. We just got absolutely smashed by Liverpool. I've been to Anfield 3 or 4 times. It's been horrific every time. But yeah, that Shearwood loss of Shearwood manager, and I think like that was when it was like the early days of Twitter, and then after the game, everyone was like, Tottenham have been fighting each other at half time, and Danny Rose had been punching Tim Shearwood, and all these like ridiculous rumours came out.
I think probably the early noughties, where the club just seemed to have no direction. It was financially not really competitive. It was shades in the 90s where they went out and bought some fantastic players at times and gave it a real go in their own way. But in the early 2000s, it was a complete mess. That was compounded by the success that another team in North London that's not from North London was having. So I think that period just haunts me, and I think that coincides with a certain someone whose name we won't say crossing the divide and just thinking, even at sort of the age of 11 or 12, is this really what this is going to be like?
That would be, again, going back to the 80s. More so than the recent Europa League victory. It was the 1984 European Cup success, primarily because I was there by a fluke of nature. Again, I was in Brussels and back in London for both legs of the final. In terms of best moment, it would be being at both legs of that European Cup final in '84.
As an era, the last season of White Hart Lane was amazing.
The thing that stands out for me, like as an actual fan, was just that last season at White Hart Lane. I went to pretty much every home game. I don't know if you remember back then, they had the ballot system, and I managed to win most of them. I think I went to every single home game except for one. And obviously that season we won 16 out of it, 17 out of 19 home games. We only drew 2 of them. We were unbeaten the whole game, and that's when I first started going with my mates, my proper mates now. Like we used to go that season, and you just know that Tottenham, whoever it was, Tottenham were going to smash them. Like we just absolutely steamrolled the teams, 4 or 5-0 every week. The football that we played was unbelievable, and there wasn't a single team in the Premier League that I feared playing at White Hart Lane that season. But just that season, going every week with my mates and to the old White Hart Lane, like just being unbelievable, winning every single one except for 2 and drawing those 2, not losing a single game, was just unbelievable.
A game I was at, I would say Real Madrid at Wembley.
3-0. They're in dreamland, Tottenham now. The European champions are being taken apart at Wembley.
My favourite Spurs memory has to be Bilbao, the 21st of May 2025.
If you'd asked me before May, I'd have said the 08 Cup final because it was on my 18th birthday, and that was great. But the Europa League win was just sensational.
I was there with my dad and my brother in Bilbao, and it was just the best feeling of my life, without a question. The happiest day that I have ever had and probably will have in the future.
I think it was, whilst it was wonderful in terms of joy, it was a release, and I don't think I really realised how much tension and frustration and how agonising it was being sort of bantered all these years.
We've been waiting for a moment like this for so long, through all the ups, all the downs of supporting Tottenham, the heartbreaks, the near misses, the nearly theirs, and to finally experience it together after years of supporting Tottenham side by side. It felt like everything had come full circle. Like growing up, my dad used to take us to games all the time, and now celebrating with him and my brother on the biggest stage, like the Europa League final, it was a day that I will never forget.
And so that final whistle, to know that we'd won something, and that was the overriding sensation, was joy. But shortly after, just to get that monkey off your back. But I think it's one of those, you'll never forget where you were. You'll never forget that ball sort of making its way into the goal in a rather unconventional way, but you just didn't care. And I think, May will be hard to beat, even if they perhaps won something more major. I think just the weight and the sort of almost against all odds, right, with the league form, the injuries, it was just a remarkable achievement, I think.
Every day I'm Spursy, I'm a pessimist because I support Spurs. Like it just seeps into your soul and never leaves you. But you get great highs too. I'm lucky enough to work in football and do a Spurs pod, so it just takes over my life. I wish it didn't, but it does.
Supporting Tottenham affects me every day because, in a way, being Spurs has been character development. I think supporting this club isn't just about the highs and the lows, it's about the resilience, the patience, and more importantly, the hope. It's become a massive part of who I am, shaping the way that I deal with big challenges in life. And I think following Tottenham has driven my work ethic and my belief that no matter how tough things get, the perseverance will eventually pay off. And I think experiencing that Europa League final and finally seeing it all come together was a massive part of that, and it's completely like just changed my outlook on life.
You can't escape it, and we've sort of set ourselves up for that, right? In that, you know, there's always a WhatsApp message, or you go on Twitter, or a notification on your phone, or a podcast, whatever it is, it's always there. And there are things in and around my house. You can probably see behind me there's stuff, right? So you sort of can't get away from it. For me, and people have laughed at this for rival supporters, but it is a sense of belonging to a group, to having shared emotions and experiences together, and people that you care about, you know, whether that's family or friends, or, you know, to know that you watched that game with those people and you all felt that way in the moment, and you share in that and you talk about it for years to come. I just think, even though the trophies haven't been there, there've been some real highs, some real lows, but it's the people that make me want to go, right? You know, the football has actually over the years become secondary in many respects. It's the people.
All my best mates are mates that I've met through Tottenham. My girlfriend is someone that I've met through Tottenham. My family are all Tottenham. It's like, it's such an amazing thing to be part of. So while it is quite sad that this thing that you have no control over takes away your whole life, at the same time, it's given me so much as well. Like, a lot of my life, you know, the best memories of my life are Tottenham centric. Like, the best nights of my life are nights where we've beaten Ajax, or we've beaten Man City in the Champions League quarter final, whatever. So, you know, as much as it is quite ridiculous to have this thing that football where it affects that much of your life. Also, you get so much out of it as well.
Honestly, I think it's when you're in a massive crowd. You walk into the stadium, you don't get it anywhere else. It's this feeling of belonging, that you're just with like-minded people, and you end up kissing and cheering and hugging complete and utter strangers, and you walk away afterwards thinking, what the fuck did I kiss him for? But once you go up those steps, there's just an aura, a feeling about it, and it sounds cliche, but it very much is just all of us together for the same reason. Doesn't matter what background you come from, what faith, religion, sexuality, nothing. We're all there for one reason, and that's Spurs. And that, I feel that every time I go to Spurs. I don't always leave the stadium feeling that, because usually the results don't match the atmosphere, but certainly I walk up the concourse and up the steps, it's that feeling of being at one with 60,000 other people.
Tottenham's something that will be with me to the day I die, and I can't describe how comforting yet horrifying that is. But the long trips, the money spent, the fingertips I've lost to the cold, the tears I've cried, they all come to fruition that night in Bilbao. I've always said that throughout my life supporting Tottenham, that all I need is one, and to be in the ground like my dad was 41 years ago, lifting that very same trophy all those years since we last did, is something that even now makes me tear up a little bit. Players, managers, owners will come and go, but the heartbeat of the club is the ones who fill those seats at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, or on a Thursday night in Croatia, watching us lose 3-0 to a team whose manager's just been sent to prison the week prior. The ones who, in the face of adversity, stand up for what they love. The ones who've inherited this beautiful, calming chaos from fathers, brothers, mothers, aunties, uncles, grandparents, and everything in between. It's the ones who know what it means being Spurs. It's the open palm reaching out to help you, whilst also delivering a kidney punch at the same time, just for good measure. It really, really is beyond words. Being Spurs.